May my words be ever acceptable in your sight, O Lord. In today's lesson, we learned that 70, or 72, depending on which version you're reading, disciples were sent out ahead of Jesus' visit to cities on his way to Jerusalem. When the 12 apostles went out, they were going ahead of his visit to Galilee. So this is a whole different set of people. Unlike the 12, these 70 were tasked, much like missionaries of any religion, to go out and spread the word of the coming, then come back and report. I think that this was so Jesus could go on to non-believing towns and perform some miracles and maybe turn a few heads. They were also told not to take any provisions, carry no purse, and to go barefoot. They were told to only go to a house if they were welcome there, and not to go from one house to another house while they were in that city. If they were not welcomed in the town, they were asked to leave. He said they were to heal the sick and leave peace to the households. I believe they were told this, and told not to stay very long, just a day or two, because he didn't want them to get comfortable in one place. He didn't want them to just stay there. He wanted them to be able to move on. And when you get too comfortable, sometimes it's really hard to move on. They were to do what they were asked and come back. You get too comfortable and you start to identify with the things and not what they were about. Jesus knew he had to go, and one of his disciples to go on with the work after he was gone. This was to get them into the habit. He also said he was sending them like lambs among the wolves, and that the crops were too big and the laborers were too few. They were asked to have the households and laborers in the fields, send laborers into the fields. I take this as a metaphor, more or less, for the 70 to add to themselves. They're there to teach that the kingdom has come near. They're there to heal the sick, to lead peace to the households. They expected that the households would send out more to do the same as they were tasked. I don't believe they knew this at the time, but after all the events that took place after they went out on their journey and came back, I think that they probably caught on that this was not just a one-time journey. We are all tasked with this. Any of us can heal the sick, teach the word, be laborers. It's easy to be a lamb among all the other lambs. What's hard is being a lamb among the wolves, those that are different from us, different beliefs and societies, different cultures. You have to hang on to yourself and what you believe while showing by example who you are and who Jesus is. You may even learn a thing or two and find out that those wolves are no different than we are. Among themselves, they are the lambs, and we are the wolves. Yes, you might get hurt, get scared along the way, but we need to do it anyway. Our job is, as missionaries, to do what the disciples did for Jesus before he died. The job of following Jesus is in all our relationships with him and the one who sent him. Also, I think that the 2 by 2 is important. You hear a lot of that in the Bible, like people going out 2 by 2. I think it helps each of us get through and get the message out. It helps that the partners can build each other up and remind each other what the reason was, why they are out there doing the task. It helps to have someone to talk to when you feel like you are drowning, when you cannot possibly see the task ahead, when you feel like you are the only one that is different, when you feel like you cannot believe anymore. They can remind you what Jesus is about and his love for everyone. Sorry, I'm emotional. But not everyone is called to be a pastor. Everyone, even in this room, is called to be a minister. As we live out our Christian faith, we can talk of the love of Jesus, how he lived, how he died to save us all. Jesus said, eat what is set before you. When you get desperate, you eat what you have. It may be all that they had to give you. You are doing them a favor by eating what is set before you. An example of this is a story my friend told me. They were not at all in the money, as we say. She had been a cancer survivor for 14 years. She paid every dime of her treatment, a few dollars at a time, and she could not work this time. Her husband owned his own business, and they did okay. They didn't really have enough. But she could stretch a dollar, better than anybody I know. One day her husband came home and a co-worker with his wife were with him. The co-worker and him worked on her car. When they were finished, the husband said to her, I asked them to stay for dinner. She said, I don't think we have enough food. He told her to cook what she was going to cook for them and divide it by four, put it on the plates, and then they would come and sit at the table. All they needed was some food and conversation. She could not believe they all got full, and they even raved about her cooking. She was a non-believer, and she believed in reincarnation, ghosts, and all kinds of strange stuff. But she told me that this must be what it feels like being a believer. And so she started asking questions about it. She died not too long after this, but this story struck me. Eat what is in front of you, and you will live. It has not too much to do with food, but with relationships. Jesus sent his disciples out with very little so they could focus on the task at hand and the ministry and the gifts they were given to use to move their ministry. The idea of companionship is a lot like community. We need to be reminded that in community, we are not alone. Being in God's presence, we are all the same. Do not rejoice that the demons submitted to you, but that your name is written in heaven. Because God is with them, as he is with all of us. It was not their doing alone. God does not promise that things will be easy, but he gives us companions for our journey. They come in unexpected sources sometimes. Sometimes they might be the wolves. But our job is to get the word out. Our job is not to be convenient. God will take care of us. Jesus took ordinary people from every walk of life and made them disciples. Cultures not yet known. This gospel is not too hard to understand, but is very hard to imagine doing. Can you imagine going out for a few months with no money, clothes, shoes, and talk to strangers about Jesus and healing the sick? I sure can't. But it happens all the time. People leave home just to spread the word. It might even be people we see on the street. Mostly when we see them, we look the other way. We think they're kooks. We might even be scared of them. But how do we know for sure that they are not a disciple of Christ? Think about that a minute. The 70 were unknown to this town that they went. Yet there they were on their doorsteps, preaching and saying things that were unknown to them. Some towns said, get out, like kicking out the bums. Others were more welcoming, and they left their peace and teaching with them. Let me ask you this. How do you feel when religious people knock on your door? We are all disciples of Christ. Spread the word, heal the people, and rejoice that your name is written in heaven. Do not rejoice that you can do all these things. Jesus was with you and the one who sent him. Again, how do you feel when people come knocking on your door?